Welcome fight fans to my channel. This is Johnny, and today we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning last weekend's title fight between Dimitri Bivol and Malik Zinad. Guys, this past weekend in Riyadh, we had the 5 vs. 5 between Queensberry and Matchroom. We know that Queensberry had a clean sweep of Matchroom, winning all 10 fights. 2 of the marquee fights on that card. One was the main event between Zhang and Wilder. We're going to do a video in the next few hours about that fight, but right now we're going to talk about the Dimitri Bivol versus Malik Zinad WBA World Light Heavyweight title fight. We know that Zinad was a late replacement. Another thing, we know that the initial opponent was Artur Beterbiev. That was the fight we were all planning on, and that fight just didn't happen due to Beterbiev needing knee surgery on his meniscus. His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh did announce that that fight has been rescheduled for this October. So today I want to talk about the Zinad versus Bivol fight behind the numbers. We're going to talk about the punch statistics, the overall punch output, the jabs, the power shots, and the statistics landed and the percentages. These are the numbers that really help tell the narrative of the story. We know that going into this fight, Zinad was pretty much unheard of a guy. He's a Libyan fighter, 22-0 with 16 knockouts, and he put his hand up. He had the opportunity of a lifetime to step up on short notice and take on one of the greatest of his generation, Dimitri Bivol. We know Bivol is the #1 rated light heavyweight in the world. He goes about his business a bit differently for people in his weight class. His last 9 victories were all by decision. We know about his world-class boxing skills, his world-class ring IQ. So a lot of the pundits were giving Zinad a little bit of a chance. Vegas wasn't. He was a 14-1 dog. But people were talking about, because Bivol doesn't finish his opponents, the longer the fight goes on, the more opportunities Zinad would have to maybe land a miraculous punch. That was not the case. Also, what wasn't the case was Bivol winning by decision. Bivol was a different guy against Zinad. Credit it to whatever you want to credit it to, but this wasn't a Bivol who was moving a lot. He wasn't moving side to side. He was staying in the pocket the whole time, and we did a video last week on why this probably would be the case. We talked about why Bivol was wanting to prove a point and why I was predicting that Bivol would win by knockout, and that's exactly what happened. If you didn't watch the fight, Dimitri Bivol knocked out Malik Zinad via 6-round stoppage. The ref jumped in and spared Zinad, a very brave and courageous fighter, from taking excessive damage. So today we're going to talk about the statistics. I want to talk about the number 16 first before we continue. The reason why 16 is relevant here, going into the 6th round, Bivol was jabbing at such a high level. His output was 2-1 over Zinad, and he could have easily done this to win the fight. But rather than doing this, as the 6th round began, Zinad's total power shots throughout the whole fight was 16, and Bivol, rather than continuing that jab onslaught, he throws 16 power shots alone in the 6th round, and it was those power shots that told the story that got Zinad out of there. So rather than cruising to a victory, we saw a more aggressive Bivol with wanting to finish the fight. Now let's talk a little bit more about the overall punch statistics of the fight. Guys, we know the fight ended in the 6th round, so we don't have a huge sample size of punch output, but up until the fight was called off, the total punches thrown for each fighter, Bivol threw 221, landing 93 at a 42% clip. Zinad threw 352, landing only 42 at a 12% clip. So when we talk total output, Zinad was working way harder, was being way less efficient, and using way more energy than Bivol, the master, showed again what makes him such a high-class, a high-level fighter is his efficiency and his accuracy. Throwing way less punches, but landing way more. And it's not always how many we throw, it's usually how many do we land. And sometimes when we miss more than we throw, that zaps the energy tank, and it can be quite exhausting. Now let's take a closer look at the jabs thrown. Throughout the fight, Dimitri Bivol threw 157 jabs, landing 63 at a 40% clip. Zinad threw 264, landing 26 at a 10% clip. Once again, Zinad throws way more jabs, but lands way less often. Why was this? Because Bivol had Zinad's pace and had his space already figured out early on, and he wasn't going to waste punches. Once Bivol figured it out after the first few rounds, It was competitive when you look at the fight, the first, second round. Zinad, like I said, heart of a warrior. He wasn't going to run anywhere. But this was a fight where if you were expecting him to back up, Bivol wasn't running either. So Zinad was wasting a lot more shots, wasting a lot more energy, and Bivol was taking it all in and was throwing his shots. And more often than not, Zinad was there to get hit. Now let's take a closer look at those power shots that we mentioned earlier. Total power punches thrown throughout the fight. Bivol throws 64, lands 30 at a 47% clip. Zinad throws 88, lands 16 at an 18% clip. But once again, going into that last round, Bivol had only landed 14 power shots. He was doing the job with his jab. He was using his jab so effectively that Zinad was getting hit with it, but he wasn't landing any of his own. He was throwing more punches than Zinad, but they weren't landing. That's how masterful Bivol was with the space and distance. But when you look at the 14 power punches landed going into the last round, and then him totaling 30, meaning that Bivol lands 16, doubles up his whole output throughout the rest of the fight in that one round, and that's what got Zinad out of there, and that's what Bivol knew going into that sixth. He knew he didn't want to win a decision. He knew that his jab had done enough work to tell the story, to put Zinad in a false sense of security, and Bivol trusted his power, his precision, and he got him out of there. And in my opinion, the referee saves Zinad from a further beating. Now, we know after this fight went down, Al-Ashik announced that the Better Beef fight is back on this October. We're going to do a whole new video on that. And once again, I'm going to leave it with you guys. What do you think of Bivol's performance against Zinad? And what do you think of his chances this coming October against Better Beef? Leave all that in the comment section below.